Since its introduction over a decade ago, Logic has really proven itself to be a real hard hitter in the digital audio workstation place. It has tons of features, tons of functionality, and a pretty dedicated user base to back it up, myself included. No matter how long you've been a Logic user, whether you're brand new or you're a seasoned veteran, we're always looking for things that makes our workflow have less friction, makes it more efficient, easier to use, and just more creative. That's why today we're going over some of my favorite Logic Pro tips that have been absolute game changers to me, and I'm sure they're going to make so much of a difference in your workflows too. Hi everybody, it's Richard Ashby, except I'm currently editing this video that you're watching. I wanted to make a little disclaimer because I'm having a wild thing happen and I am thoroughly spooked. As you can probably hear, it is completely silent in my bedroom. I have the computer that's making, the fans are making noise, the TV is muted. I'm actually currently home alone as I'm filming this. But yet, throughout this whole video, you're gonna hear a little bit of a noise. You're gonna hear some static and you're gonna hear some voices and you're gonna hear a slight little bit of music. And I don't know why. Something about my recording setup here is picking up a radio station. It's actually picking up multiple radio stations. I've tried recording this video 3 times and I've gotten salsa music, I've gotten country music, I've gotten commercials, and I don't understand what about my recording setup here is picking up this radio station. And I don't know how to stop it, but it's driving me nuts. I just don't have the time to record this video a 4th time. So I'm just kind of going with this cut. But this is just to let you know that I'm sorry, I'm not playing music, I promise. It's just a really weird thing. And I'm gonna try to fix it before the next video. But I just wanted to make that disclaimer now. Technology is weird, man. So I divided all the tips up into 2 sections, workflow tips and production tips. Now the workflow tips are going to help you prepare your tracks and prepare your session to help you just work a little bit faster and a little bit more efficiently. Now the production tips are going to be more aimed toward the actual creation of the music and the actual recording of the music. Now let's get started with the production tips first. I'm going to get started with my favorite of the list, and that's MIDI chase. Now, it's a very common thing in Logic to record some MIDI and then you try to play it from maybe the middle of a bar or something and you just hear no notes. And that's because Logic just doesn't play MIDI from the middle of the bar unless you activate MIDI chase. And it's a really simple process. All we're going to do is we're going to go up to File, Project Settings, and you're going to see under MIDI a section called Chase. All you got to do, click that little box, and now you can hear your MIDI from no matter where you play it. Once I found out about MIDI chase, it was an absolute game changer. And honestly, this could probably be the whole video, and there's a large chunk of the population who would be pretty content with it because MIDI chase is just that game changing. The next thing we're going to go through is low latency mode. Let's say you have a pretty huge session with a lot of tracks and effects and plugins and it's really bogging down your recording and monitoring. Well, Logic has a solution for that, and they call it low latency monitoring mode. And it's pretty easy to activate. All you have to do is go into the Logic settings, press audio, go down to general, and right there at the bottom, you enable low latency monitoring mode. And by doing this, you're turning off all the CPU intensive plugins and effects and routing in favor of giving that CPU space back to the monitoring. And when you turn it back off, all your plugins and effects come back just the way they were. This next one's really great for organization, is color coding your tracks and regions. Again, let's say you have a really big session. For example, let's use my espresso session from my espresso cover, which I'll link right here, or here, I don't remember which side it's on. There's a lot of tracks here, and let's say I want to label all of my vocals red. All I gotta do is highlight them all, right click, and you'll see a drop down that's labeled show/hide colors. We click that, and now we have 96 colors to choose from. And I just have to select red and they're all changed automatically. Now in our really big sessions, we're able to keep track of everything and just know that red means vocals, or any of the 95 other options that you have. This next one's really great for cleaning up unwanted sounds out of your mixes. If you take an audio file and press Ctrl X, you'll get a pop-up that now outlines out various parts of the region. On the bottom you see a couple controls, but the one we're going to care about the most is called threshold. That's going to be your limit for what gets let through this gate. Set the threshold to whatever the quietest sound that you want in is, and then everything above that will be kept and everything out of that will be deleted. This removes all of the silence and maybe unnecessary background noises or breaths or coughs or whatever out of your tracks. So now when we're mixing, we don't have to worry about any of that excess sound bleed. Okay, now let's talk about some production tips. These are things that are going to make your music more fun to create, give you cooler sounds, or just give you new ways to manipulate your audio in ways you didn't think you had. We're starting off with my favorite again, and this one is called VarySpeed. This plugin is so versatile and is so helpful, especially to people like me who can't sing very high. Now VarySpeed lives right up top here in the toolbar. If you don't see it, that's because you probably haven't activated it yet. So all you need to do is right click and you'll see Customize Control Bar and Display. We'll click that, and under LCD you'll see VarySpeed, and you can just toggle that on and off. Now VarySpeed, what it's going to allow you to do is speed up or slow down, variable speed, your whole project. And you can do that based off of semitones going up or down, or you can do tuning references, tempos, or percentages. I leave mine on semitones just because it's more musical for me to think of it that way. And let's take this session here, which was the Agora Hills project that I did for a short a couple weeks ago. And we'll take our background vocals. And let's say I want to add a note on top of that, but I can't quite hit it. What we can do is we can slow it down in VarySpeed by, let's say, 2 semitones. And now when we play it back, now it's lower. Now I'll just sing the note on top of that. This is what I just sang. And now if we go back up to VarySpeed and turn that back up to 0 semitones, it automatically raises it for us. So now we can play our whole chord. And you can see the new notes in there. This works especially well if you're trying to sing really high notes that you can't normally hit, or sing really low notes that you can't normally hit. This also works for slowing down the project to maybe practice a part, or maybe record it in slower and then speed it up, or any other thing you can do with messing with the timing. It's so versatile and I love it. The next one we have kind of walks the line between production and organization, but I put it in production for one specific reason, and that's track stacks. Staying in the Agora Hills session, we do have a couple track stacks here. What it is I grouped together all of the things that were relatively similar. Like here's the whole choir that we were just listening to, and these are all of the background vocals. Now in the track stack, what this allows you to do is now process all of these separate tracks as one. Instead of having to put on 4 reverbs, we can just stack them together and just have to process one. This saves up tons of power on your CPU. You can see here that each of the individual tracks actually don't have anything on them except for panning. But then when we go to the master track stack, we actually have pitch correction and a space designer reverb on there. Then if we go down to the choirs, it's the same thing. There's nothing really there, but I have a little bit of pitch correction and EQ on those too. Track stacks are really great. You can use them just for organization, but using them to that next level to use them for mixing and routing, it's even better. So let's say you're playing a loop and just fiddling around on your MIDI keyboard just to try to find some melodies, and you end up finding something that you really like, but the issue was that you're not recording. Well, Logic has a solution for that too. Here's a drum loop and let's just noodle around on it, and I'm not going to record, I'm just going to press play. And let's just say I really like that idea, but oops, I didn't press record. Well, up here in the corner, I can just press this capture recording button, or press our hotkey Shift R, and there's what I just played. Isn't that neat? And now if you don't have the capture recording, just like with the VarySpeed, you just have to come up to your toolbar, Customize, and right under Transport, you should be able to see Capture Recording. You can toggle that on and off. The only thing I wish is that this worked for audio, which it doesn't, but at least for MIDI, it records all the time. And if you ever have an idea, it's not lost forever. Let's take that same MIDI that we just created, and let's say we actually wanted this to be a little more legato. Traditionally, how we have to solve that is take every note and stretch it out. Or maybe we just take all the notes and just kind of hope that it's even enough that we can all stretch it out. But again, with Logic, there's a way to solve that. This is called forced legato. And all you need to do is select all of your notes by either clicking and dragging or pressing Command A. And then if you press Shift and backslash, it forces legato on everything. It's just that easy. This next one's a little bit of a doozy, but it's one of my favorite Logic Pro features in general. It's called Flex Time and Flex Pitch. I have this bass audio here that we're going to use to demonstrate all of this. We press E, we can bring up the entire region down in another window. And if we press this little DNA bendy thing right here, we turn on flex. Let's just turn that on. It'll take a second to analyze the transients. And now we can move each individual transient to wherever we want it to. Now we can get super precise timing for whatever we may want. You can use this for whenever you have vocal attacks that don't quite match up. You can just make them match up, or maybe drum hits that don't land perfectly where you want them to. You can now just move it around and everything around it stays in relation to where it was. If you click this drop down here, you have a couple different algorithms for how the flex timing is going to be processed. But then here at the top, we also have what's called flex pitch. Let's click on that one. The computer's going to take a second to analyze all the information, but when it's done, you'll get a note-by-note play of everything that's there. Think of this as like Melodyne, but built directly into Logic. Now what you can do is you can select each note, you can actually change each note, or if it's a little out of pitch or a little too in pitch, you can actually change how far the pitch is. Now we can see here that this note is flat by 38 cents. We can just pull that right back up and make it in tune. You can also see these lines here that demonstrate the pitch slides between each of the notes. Honestly, Flex is a massively powerful tool that I can honestly make a whole video about. So if you want to see that, leave a comment. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is a fun little effect I like to throw on every once in a while, and that's the speed up and slow down / fade in, fade out. If we select an audio region and we go over to the region section over here, scroll down to more, you'll see fade in. You can now add how long of a fade in you want, so now when it starts playing, there's a fade in. And obviously you can do the same with the fade out, and I'll do that here on this ending one. I'll just make it really dramatic so that we can really hear it. And this is easy enough, and you can also apply curves to the fade in and fade out. Instead of it being linear, it can be exponential. Now if we go up to the triangle where the fade is, we can actually right click it, and you'll see now that we have the option for fade in or speed up. Let's let speed up, and you see it turns red, and we can do the same for the fade out, except we get slow down. Now let's play it. Isn't that fun? And then you can also do the same thing slowing down. Ain't that neat? Obviously these are really long and dramatic, but a shorter tail can really drive a lot of energy into a track, or maybe even a transition. That should be enough to tide you over, at least for a little bit. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. Now if you learned something, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You know, do all the YouTube things. Now go get creating. I'll see you guys next time.